Hey, hello, and welcome to the show. It's me, John Park. It's time for John Park's Workshop. I am just turning down my mixer a little bit because I noticed it was slightly hot on Tuesday's show. But overall, I'm pleased with the new audio setup. Let me know if you are too, or if at least it's not worse, or if you hear any crackling or weird stuff like that. Let me know. So thanks for stopping over into the chat. We've got some people over in our YouTube chat. Hello to Beata Graf Abdelhagen, Robert Cochran, Dave Odessa, Johnny Bergdahl, hello. And then our Discord. That's the place to check out if you're wondering where the chat is at. Hello to, let's see, where does this thing start? Andy Calloway, hello. Hey, Paul Cutler, C. Grover, Starman, Thin Man, Blitz City DIY. There's Johnny again. Hey, Jim Hendrickson. Hey, Andy Calloway. You can hear the AC more than usual. Interesting. I'm not going to mess with that right now, but that's a good note. Thank you. Yeah, this mixer, it's a Yamaha mixer, and it has settings that can only be adjusted on the computer with a little app, but then it pushes them to the device. It does all the DSP, digital signal processing on the mixer. One of them is an EQ. And I want to try to see if I can EQ it enough to pop that AC HVAC fan noise out of there. All right, so let's see. What are we doing today? I've got a coupon code for you so you can save some money in the Adafruit shop. We'll take a look at some new products. I have my product pick of the week show recap. I've got a CircuitPython Parsec for you. We'll be looking at a little mini hardware retrospective for Arduino on the event of their purchase by Qualcomm, and what that means. I don't know what that means, but I'll at least show you some cool old hardware in this thing. And we'll look at some stuff related to an upcoming project, my next project. So I'm just wrapping up the Juggling Balls project. I've started writing the guide. I pushed the code up to our Learn Guide repo, so that is just about wrapped up. And I'll be moving on to a new guide that we'll touch on. So let's start with a coupon code for you. If you want to save some money in the Adafruit shop today, there's your coupon code, Steamboat. Just type that in the coupon code slot on the way out. You'll get 10% off. I will say sometimes there are also coupon codes going on related to certain products. I don't know if there's a Halloween code going right now, but look on the Adafruit shop. Let me bring that up. If you look on the Adafruit shop, excuse me, Adafruit's Electric Halloween, I think that might link into some particular products that are on a deeper discount. But give it a shot, and then if not, use 10% off with this coupon code, Steamboat. That is good on anything you can buy that we can ship to you, so it won't work on gift certificates, subscriptions, or software, but it's good for stuff. And speaking of stuff, what do we have that's new? Let me bring that Chrome back. So here's on the main page, new products, view all new products. Neat new IR sensor, presence and motion sensor, the STH S34PF80 IR presence motion sensor. That just showed up in the shop yesterday, so you get 10% off on one of those if you want to get it. There's this ESP32S2 Seola 1R dev kit. There's a MioWare muscle sensor. I've never tried these. Has anyone tried these muscle sensors? Bump, bump, bump. Do stuff with your flexing stuff. Seems kind of fun. Out of stock on the Raspberry Pi 500 Plus, but I do believe the discount even works on that, and our margins are thin, but I believe you can get 10% off even on something like that when it's in stock. We don't do back orders or rain checks or pre-orders or anything other than if we've got it in stock, then we'll sell it to you. Observant reader in the chat, Andy Calloway says Steamboat as in Steamboat Willie. Yes, indeed. That's a little hint at the upcoming project. All right, so one other thing I'll mention, if you are curious about our available enticements for spending more money, if you go to adafruit.com/free, you'll see the things that we have available if you spend above a certain threshold. So if you spend $99 or more, you'll get the free PCB coaster. If you spend $149 or more, you'll get the coaster as well as a KB2040 microcontroller board. And then if you spend $199 or more, you'll get the coaster, the KB2040, and free UPS ground shipping in the continental United States. So you can stack up all of those, and I believe you can still use the coupon code. I'm assuming that the thresholds occur after the coupon code, but I've never tested that. So if anyone knows, let me know. Alrighty, Tuesdays I've got my product pick of the week show, and that was the thumbnail for this week's product pick. Here is a little 1-minute recap. It is the OPT 4048 XYZ Tri-Stimulus Color Sensor Breakout. The CIE X and Y coordinates, as well as the lux or brightness, and the color temperature. Video spotlight right here. I'm going to adjust the brightness on the lamp here so you can see as that goes up, things get a lot brighter, and my lux reading is going up to about 12,000. I'll change the color temperature, so I'll go all the way to the left, and you'll see this light now is at 2,500 Kelvin. As I adjust that cooler, you'll see it starts to go to a pretty neutral, up in the 4,000 Kelvin range, and then I'm up at about 5,300 Kelvin. This is the OPT 4048 Tri-Stimulus XYZ Color and Lux Sensor Breakout. Sure, I didn't turn my audio back on. Hey, so that was that. All I said was, hey, let's now take a look at a CircuitPython Parsec. CircuitPython Parsec. Okay, so we're back with our little Spice Invaders game. And what I wanted to show you on the CircuitPython Parsec today is how to create a splash screen for your game. This is running in CircuitPython on a Feather board, and I'm using my favorite little display here, this Sharp memory display. Now this is a 1-bit display, so we're going to need to use black and white art, but that doesn't mean you can't approximate shading using some dithered graphics, and we'll actually dive a little more into dithering in the future. But what I've got going on right now, if I reset this board, what I'm going to do is just in my REPL, hit Control-C, Control-D, I'm going to see it restart, and right when it starts, we get our splash screen. So this says Spice Invaders, and I've clearly just stolen the Space Invaders logo, so don't sue me for that. And then in this case, we're not going to any menus yet. That'll be coming, but this just drops us right into the game. The game is pretty hard to lose right now. All you got to do is shoot the ship and it explodes. So the way this works, and I'll go ahead and reset that so that graphic is up there. The way this works, in the main imports of the code, I've got display IO and frame buffer IO, which are how we're drawing to the screen. I set up my frame buffer. In this case, it's the 400 by 240 display. And then I'm creating a group to contain the display IO group, which is going to show the splash screen. I'm calling it splash group. In it, I create an object called splash bitmap by using display IO on disk bitmap, and then I'm pointing at a BMP file, a black and white BMP file that I have saved on the CircuitPy drive. And then we create the splash tile using tile grid, and then point to that bitmap we've created using the pixel shader from that bitmap. Then we append that, that splash tile to the splash group, and then display the splash group up to the display root group, which is just the hierarchy of display parts. Then you'll see I've got a 10-second sleep here, and then we move on. So nothing fancy. This is not in the main loop of the program. Instead, we do some of our setup. We just show this graphic, and then we move on with life and do the initialization of our gamepad and so on. So you can kind of place this anywhere you want before the main loop, because we're only going to display this right now at startup. So if I go ahead and restart this, you'll see the BMP gets grabbed, displayed. It all happens pretty quickly, and then after a timeout, it'll go back into the game. In the future, we can set that up so that you can move past that with something like the start button. But right now, we've just got a splash screen that shows up on its own and disappears to let you play the game. And that is how you can create a very simple splash screen using a BMP file inside of CircuitPython. And that is your CircuitPython Parsec.
CircuitPython Parsec.
Sure, I just keep forgetting the mic for no reason today. Thank you, Andy Calloway, for pointing that out. I'll wait. Yes, thank you. I'll wait a moment for the messages to come in. Push the button. It's funny. There is a mute button on this this channel on the mixer, and I'm not touching it. I'm actually doing it in software. Maybe I should start using that one. That has a red light when it's muted. That might be a little more noticeable for me. Excuse me. So I mentioned that graphic. I'm actually gonna pull up that graphic that I used for my Space Invaders splash screen. Let me show Photoshop here. Make that fill. So you can see here, this is my Space Invaders splash screen, just based on the Space Invaders splash screen. And especially at a distance, it looks like we have a few little shading things going on here, a little shading going on this monster on the edge of it, and a little bit of shading on these sort of 3D echo effects on the type. And all of that is just tiny dots. So this is a dithering effect of having only black and white, but by making little patterns of black and white, sort of tiny little checkerboard patterns, noise patterns, we can get the feel for the approximation of the grayscale, even though the display only supports a black and white. Either there's a pixel there or there's not. I believe this display, the memory display, yeah, this is sort of silvery reflective by default. So I think it's the black pixels that are the ones that are drawn on there essentially. I think white is the absence of a black pixel getting drawn. So I'm going to dive a little more into dithering in a second when we get to the next project and why I want it dithered. It's not on this memory display, but it is going to be on something else that'll benefit from that. So just wanted to tease that and tie that in to the upcoming project. But then I was moving on to say, with the news of Arduino being purchased by Qualcomm, some of us were reminiscing about early hardware days with Arduino. For a lot of people, myself included, this was really the first microcontroller ecosystem, hardware, software that we used a lot. I was never into PIC or Zilog or some of the earlier microcontrollers because the barrier to entry was pretty high. So Arduino really represented a friendly system that was open source, that was made initially for artists and hackers and tinkerers, and less so for hardcore EE/CS type of people. So the first board I had, let's jump over here. I believe it's that one on the left there. Let me bring up another camera so I can. 1 second, just gotta fix that camera. Whoop. Maybe that's in focus, we'll find out. So let me head over here. These are absolutely not an exhaustive list of Arduinos that I've had or even have laying around in different places or stuffed inside of projects. There's a lot of them. But this is, I think, the oldest one that I have, which is a 10.000, which was, I think, essentially the second, it's got a lot of dust on it, essentially the second major release. The first Arduino had a big like RS-232 port to program it. This was, I think, the first one that had USB on it. And 10.000 is Italian for 10,000, so they were commemorating the sale of 10,000 of the original boards, I believe, and then came upon this one. So this one used I think the Atmega 128, I believe. I could be wrong on that. We can check that out. So this one, I think I had a couple of these, used these in some early projects and just learning the system. You can see designed by Tinker.it, they say it on them, made in Italy, a little Italian boot map there. I guess that might have been a serial number there, not sure. And pretty quickly, one interesting thing about these, they used a jumper to decide if we were going to power it with USB or with the DC barrel jack there. So this was actually in a project, I pulled it out of a project that was powered by DC barrel jack there. So this is USB versus external. But you can see the earliest, even the one before this, all the way up through the more modern Unos, used this same funny pin spacing, where there were 2 sets of, I think, 6 and 2 sets of 8 header pins with these bizarre spaces in the middle, which I kind of love because it made it impossible to insert a full shield improperly. It could only go in one way. But the next one was these, and the 2009, which stood for the year 2009. If I zoom back out there, you can see I've got a few of them here. This one, I apparently stole the chip from, I think, to do a breadboard Arduino project. I think I know where that one is, so I could probably put that back. But this, at this point, I think it was just doing detect internally and switch for the 5-volt USB versus the DC input there. Same pin layout. I guess this one didn't have the oscillator crystal, or I stole that. It doesn't look. Yeah, maybe I did. I think I stole the oscillator also to do that Arduino on a breadboard. But I love that this one had a puffy Italia sticker there. I think it came with that. And then they did a run of funny color PCBs at one point. I was doing a lot of work for Make Magazine at that point, and I think they sold them through the store there, and I got them through the store. There were yellow, orange, blue, white, green, red, black. I think those were the offerings there. I'm thinking Phil Terone has all of these. I think he collected all those. So, and then this was the standard one, except I believe it was on the 2009 where you could, maybe, I don't know if you can do it with these, but with the 2009 you could swap out the Atmega, I think, 128 with this Atmega 328. So they were putting the sticker on there for a while, I think, especially if they sold the chip on its own and you just did a swap out, but that gave you improved speed, I believe, was the difference with that, but I can't remember. And then the Uno, which is, I don't know if this is a Rev 1, Rev 2, or Rev 3. This is a Rev 3, yeah. So this was kind of the one that lasted the longest, and you could still buy as of yesterday, I think, or the day before. There were changes, though, with Rev 3 at some point. They went to a SMD chip instead of this big dip in a, what do you call it? I don't remember. Socket. Yeah, the big dip in the socket. This also added, I think, this little programming header here. I don't remember what this one. I think there was some Shield info that could be plugged in with these right here. And this was the one that I was copying when I made the Grande. So I'll show that in a second. I just mentioned this was a fun little special edition Make one that did use, I think it's also R3. Yeah, but it's the SMD chip. So there's the size difference between the Atmega 328 dip versus SMD tiny. Otherwise, I believe that's the same. And I'll grab from over here. This is the big 6 times. This is a 6x or 600% bigger than real life Arduino. I can move these out of the way and zoom that camera out. And I built this for Maker Faire one year. I don't remember the year. I should have put it on the board here. I don't think I did. I was guessing like 2014 or something like that, 2015 maybe. And there you can see it's got a Uno on it. And all the pins on the Uno are broken out to all of these sort of patch bay big headers here. This is all laser cut acrylic. And I painted, I did like a raster graphic and then squeegeed paint through it to do the silk screen. I think only non-laser cut thing on here is this top of the barrel jack. So if you see there, that barrel jack has that curved top, and I just painted some cardboard tube that I cut in half. So that's a piece of wrapping paper tube or something like that. That stores the little batteries. If I flip that on, you'll see the power is on the real Arduino there, and this power LED here is on. I have no idea what's coded on here. I don't actually have it set up right now to plug this in and program it, but it's just programmed the same way as an Uno. I broke out the USB jack here, so you plug in a USB and code it. I do have the pin 13, is that? No, there was no pin 13 LED on there. I don't remember what that L1 is. These are transmit and receive LEDs here, which will work if we do serial communications on it. I thought the reset button worked. Yeah, it does. Okay, so it's holding that L, and then when I release, that one starts blinking again. So pretty functional, just ridiculously big. I never did make a shield for it. I did make potentiometers that plugged into these, and I have a banana jack. Patch cables work. Here's a big resistor I made, which I carved out of wood and then put a little actual resistor there. But if this plugs into whatever, you can add a resistor to your project. So that is the trip down memory lane. If you want to know more about that, you can look. I wrote it up, I think, Instructables might be the only place where I have a guide to building that, but all the files are out there. Let me see. Let's go to Chrome Capture. Something nice says, yeah, that's one thing about Arduino. You never know what's on the board. It's one reason I love CircuitPython. It's true. I used to label Arduinos with a post-it note just to be able to know what the heck was running on it. So yeah, here on Instructables, if you look for Arduino Grande, you'll see there's the little wireframe of the CAD. There's cutting it out on laser cutter. I provided Illustrator and DXF files for laser cutting. There was the prototype I did out of wood. You can see there. There's some of the prototype parts put together. And then I went to the final. Happened to have some blue acrylic that sort of matched the Arduino blue. This is that little squeegee of paint technique. So you just spread on paint, acrylic paint. And does the arrow keys work on this? Yeah. You can spread it on like that and then wipe it off, squeegee that off, and it'll stay inside of the little rough rastered dots. There's my header wiring, and look, that's why it hasn't fallen apart. I used Loctite. How good of me to keep those banana jacks from unscrewing themselves. There's a rare view of, yeah, that's what it looks like underneath. So I just ran with that little screw shield. I ran wiring out and underneath, and then just covered all of that with a bottom board. Yeah, there's our cardboard tubing before I painted it, and before I swapped out that piece of plastic there. And there's me and Massimo at yeah, one of the maker fairs, checking out the ridiculous Arduino Grande. So that is it. Oh, and look, yeah, there's someone who made it, and I think made it ESP32 also. Yeah, so I was not the first person to make a large version of a thing for sure, but this one definitely got made the viral rounds of the day, and it was fun to see people continue that on, make their own. I think at least one person did make a shield for it, and other versions of it. So. That was trip down Arduino memory lane. And the other key thing was that since I traveled with it to Maker Faire and some other places a few times, I bought an appropriate sized Pelican case to put it in, which is why it's in good shape still. It hasn't been like in the back of a shelf or a closet. It's actually had a nice little safe home to live in. So. All right, yeah, that was Arduino Grande. I'll show the one other thing I'll show you. I have the. I think I modified an Atari paddle. This is the Pelican case it lives in. I modified an Atari paddle to plug in. I don't know where I put. Yeah, I don't see any of the LEDs, but this is. This is an Atari paddle controller that I got for $4.99 at a thrift store 10 or more years ago. And I guess I just rewired it to have 3 banana plugs on there to use just as a voltage divider to be able to have an appropriately large potentiometer for Arduino. I can't remember if that... I know there's something funny about using the real ones on an Atari, like it's not just a voltage divider, it's like a capacitance measurement or something like that. So I honestly don't even remember if that one I really got working or not, but at least I wired it. Maybe I was just being hopeful that it would just work, can't remember. All right, let's see. I'm checking out the chats. Yeah, so and there were other Arduino that size boards, but with different chips. Like I have an Arduino M0 somewhere, and I think that one had 2 USB ports on it. There was the Arduino 101, might have had an M4 on it or some other funny chip, I can't remember. The Yun, someone mentioned, and Lady Ada mentioned last night, that I think was one that had USB and flash memory, I think, and could act as a USB HID device. I think it was the Yun that brought some of that in, but I'm a little hazy on some of those. All right, yeah. So that's that. That's tell us your Arduino stories. Which ones do you have kicking around? Someone said they have a Yun. Yeah, Batagraph has a Yun in storage, powered on every year to make sure it works. I love that. Question: Keith Schlotthauer asked, "Where is the product of the day?" Well, I do a product of the week, and I did it on Tuesday, so I'm not sure I know what the question is. I don't have a product of the day today. Some nice said Leonardo. Yeah, Arduino Leonardo had the HID. That was the first one to have USB HID, which really changed things as far as being able to do USB MIDI kinds of projects and keyboard and mouse types of things. It was a big improvement. All right, let's now jump into... I wanted to tease one thing, and I don't have a demo of it, but I wanted to say that Frank Hodemakers, who did the port, all the excellent work of porting the NES, the Pico NES emulator to work on the Fruit Jam so well, has just released or shared with me, and it might be releasing soon, a Sega Genesis or Sega Master System if you're not from North America, but a Sega Genesis emulator. I think it's the Genesis Plus emulator that runs on a lot of systems, but he has it working really beautifully on Fruit Jam, which I'm excited about. So I'll probably show that off next week a little bit. I just ordered, there's a Genesis, official Sega Genesis USB controller out there. I didn't realize these happened, but when they put out like a little Genesis mini system, like little Android emulator system at one point, they manufactured these officially licensed, very cool USB Genesis controllers. So I've got one of those only because ABC, like 3 buttons, is pretty common, and it's awkward on a NES or SNES controller to do those. Well, impossible on NES, but inconvenient on SNES, I think. So got one of those coming. I don't know if I'll do something with this, but one of the few, I feel disloyal to Sega, because actually 2 of the only consoles I have ever sold or gotten rid of, I think sold in both cases, were Sega. I had a Sega Saturn that I sold to a game shop to buy something else, and I did keep one controller. These are real similar to Genesis, but they had ABC and XYZ, 6 buttons there, and there were Genesis controllers like that. So curious about reading that. I think it's a dual shift register kind of thing, similar to NES and SNES. Curious about trying to read that and maybe get that working through maybe something like I2C onto the Fruit Jam, or just break out the pins. And Genesis. Genesis is another one that I had, and I sold it before I moved at one point. So now I'm considering getting those back. But I kind of won't need the Genesis, will I, if I just use the Fruit Jam version? So there you go. Wait, Mega Drive? Mega Drive. Is that what someone? Yeah, someone tell me. Is Mega Drive? Yeah, it's Mega Drive, not Master System. Mega Drive was Genesis. Mega Drive everywhere but the U.S., I think, and Genesis in the U.S. I don't know why. So that's the one that we've got coming soon. I will probably demo that next week. And now let's move into the next project that's happening. So I'm gonna pop over here to Chrome. So Tom Whitwell is a friend of mine and a super awesome guy, very well known in the Eurorack synthesizer world as the creator of the Turing Machine and Music Thing Modular. He does a lot of other interesting projects and documents them on his website or on Medium. This is one he did a few years ago, which was how to build a very slow movie player for 120 pounds in 2020. So this was based on this project. I believe Brian Boyer is the creator of this original project of doing a very slow movie player that runs on a Raspberry Pi and displays every 2.5 minutes one frame of a film onto an e-ink display. So this was, I think, the original inspiration for Tom. I don't know what, actually, I need to read both of these because I don't remember what the impetus was for Tom to do this, how it differs from Brian's, but it was a few years later, so there may just be improvements in general. So Brian described building an e-paper display that shows films at 24 frames per hour rather than 24 frames per second. So it would take about a year to play 2001: Space Odyssey. And Tom did his project on a 7.5-inch e-ink display, which we now sell. We have some. We'll go back to the Adafruit here. We've got 7.5, not 7 and a 7, 7 and a 5, 7.5-inch monochrome e-ink display. We also have a tricolor, but I'm going to mess with that. I'm just going to go with the tried and true. So 7.5-inch, it's 800 by 480 pixels, and we can drive that with the new e-ink bonnet that we just put out. You could also drive it with other wings for feathers and things like that. But since we have this out and the e-ink bonnet out, Limor said, hey, why don't you take a look at doing a version of this? And I don't know how much it'll differ from Brian's or Tom's. We'll see when I get there. These, I know in Tom's case, it uses a Python script to just grab a frame at a time from an MP4. And what I was thinking of doing, at least one thing I was thinking of doing differently, is pre-processing it so that I can control the dithering. So I was talking about dithering with the splash screen for my Space Invaders knockoff there. And if we go ahead and take a look for a moment at the source material that I'm going to be working with, this thing came into the public domain. You may be familiar with it. It's Steamboat Willie, first animated cartoon with Mickey Mouse in it from 1928 or so, I think. I'm trying to remember. Let's see. Do I have that? I think I have that in a file name here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, 1928. So anyway, this pretty famously came into the public domain. So it's fair use to use for certain things. I know a couple of companies got slapped on the wrist or terrified by Disney lawyers coming after them because they were attempting to use it in products that they were selling. And I think that's pushing it. I think fair use in this case, I would stay on the side of, hey, I'm going to use it for a thing that I'm showing, but trying to associate a branded project, I forget who, Prada or something. There was like a big brand was trying to, hey, now we can just slap Steamboat Willie on stuff, and I'm pretty sure you're going to end up in court doing that. They, Disney loves their Mickey Mouse, even if that one animation is in the public domain. I don't know how much you can just go and use Mickey Mouse on stuff. So this version that I'm showing here, this was a transfer of the original. There is a much more modern, cleaned up version, remastered version that I don't believe is in public domain. So, and I'm not a lawyer, so I could be just interpreting things incorrectly there. But this version here, if we want to display that in all its glory on a e-ink display, the one I'm using is monochrome. So it's either a black pixel or a white pixel, just like the memory display, the sharp memory display that I was showing there. Oh, hey, there's a good point. Some nice mentions. Mickey can't have gloves yet, so there's one thing about him. You see, he doesn't have the gloves. So yes, the monochrome display, and I believe we have a grayscale display that's not quite as big as this one, but I wanted to use the 7.5 inch because it would make a nice little sort of picture frame display. So let me go back to Photoshop here. So the original, you can see, is this sort of muted grayscale. In fact, this is the file as you get it from Wiki Commons. So there's a few different formats you can get. And it is, I've always noticed that this one that we see, it's interesting how it does not really have black blacks or white whites, and that could just be the way it was created originally, or it could be what happened to the negative or the film positive that was scanned. But I figured the first thing I'd do to this would just be to color correct it a little bit, or exposure correct it, balance it out, so that I have pretty much black blacks and verging on white whites, but I'm not losing too much of the shading, because you can see there's some nice shading in the wall. You can see there's like a brighter edge of the wall here and a darker side of it, and the floor, the pans are brighter than the wall against it. So there's some detail that you get from having this grayscale image, but I don't want to lose too much of, if you look in this sawhorse right here. Oh, you can't see my cursor, sorry. Yeah, but if you look at the sawhorse, there's some detail there that I don't want to lose by crushing the blacks down too much. So a gentle bit of leveling of the exposure there, I think, is going to be a good start, because then what we can do, and what I'm doing here in Photoshop, is just looking at one frame so that I can figure out what I like as far as dithering settings. So right now, if we tried to put this on the display, I think we would just end up with blotchy black and white. So I want to feed it an image that has been carefully dithered first. So if I go to Photoshop's export as settings, what I have here is a 4-up display. I'm going to go to a 2-up for a second. So you can see, I'll zoom in on a section of it. Let me come out one. So you can see the original on the left here, and then on the right, I'm going to just, because it will allow me to preview, I'm not going to save a GIF out of here, but the GIF output settings are one of the places where I can say, okay, let's try out if I slap a black and white palette on this. So this would be just straight up one bit. I have black, I have white, I have two colors. So you can see we lose a bunch of detail. There's no nuance. There's some shading in the wall there where it just gets strangely black up in the corner. But this is pretty crude. It would work, but to get something a little nicer, what I'm going to do is a diffusion dither. So here you can see, I'll zoom in a little over here. You can see on this lower right area of the screen here where there's a nice gray, dark gradation on the slat of the sawhorse. It does a diffusion pattern of dithering where it has smaller spacing between the white dots, and then it gets a little bigger and a little bigger. So that's a, let me zoom out again. I think this is by default a 100%. Yeah, there's a 100% dither. So if I go ahead and switch this to a 4-up view, so I've got the original in the upper left corner here. This one is the 100% dither, and then I'll go to this bottom left one and I'll tune this down. So let's say we dither it just a tiny bit. There's a nice example in the wall. Again, I'm sorry you can't see my cursor. Let me just change how this screen capture is set up. I'll change this to window. And I gotta reconfigure that to be this window. There we go. Okay, you can at least see my cursor now, I think. So upper left is the original, right is 100% dither diffusion. And then the bottom left corner here, you can see as I increase this, look at that little corner of the wall by this duck or goose or whoever he is, his head. Someone just posted a Lars dithered. Hold on, I gotta share that. There's Lars dithered. Thank you, Andy. So as I increase the dither percentage, it will fill in more and more of the gray areas with these dot patterns. So what I think, going for is, the way I see it, there's not really any gray to Mickey's face. So if I keep that clean, I think that'll look nice. But something like this, if I go to the one up there, here we can see pretty nice dithered image. As I increase that, we'll get a grayer wall, but we start to get dots in Mickey's face there. So there are different diffusion, or rather dither patterns or algorithms that we can use. This is diffusion. If we go to pattern, it tends to get these very halftony grid-like crosses, and noise diffusion is noisy. So there are many algorithms you can choose from. Atkinson and Floyd Steinberg, and those are two big ones that I like. Sierra 3 I might try, and what those do is they just optimize differently for the sort of delta between the original and the diffused dithered pattern. So Photoshop at least gets me to where I don't know. I think this might be a Floyd Steinberg when you go to this dithered, diffusion dither. But in FFmpeg, which is what I think I'm going to do to batch process all the frames, I can name the algorithm of choice and see how that goes. If not, there are also other dithering programs out there. I don't think I want to dither them on the fly. I will try that. I think you get very little control over it if you do it on the fly on the Raspberry Pi. So I will probably set these up in advance and then just play them as frames rather than extracting them from the movie. So that may be my main difference from the way Tom had his set up. So that would be the look of that final frame there, and I'll cancel this now because I'm not gonna export that. So will it let me cancel? There we go. So that's going to be Steamboat Willie on E-Ink, and if you take a look in my Chrome here, I will run that with E-Ink Bonnet. I think it's this one, yeah? Yeah, I just got one. So this cute little bonnet here will just connect to the ribbon cable on that display. And the idea will be to make a nice little frame. You can probably tell that frame is something like a 16:9 ratio. And I will probably, again, in my pre-processing of it, make a, what is this, 800 by 420? I think so. Does it say? Oh, that's the bonnet. Let's go back. 800 by 480. So I will go 480 high and 6 whatever wide, because that Mickey is close to like a 4x3, or Steamboat Willie's close, pretty square, closer to a 4x3. So I'll probably put pillar boxes on the sides of black stripe, and then maybe build my frame to hide that so that we only see only expose the window of the frame that this is playing on. Or I'll leave it out and open so I can choose different animation to put on it later. But that is the upcoming project. So let's see, has anyone got thoughts or questions on those things? Let's see. Beatograph Abdelhagen said, copyright 0, trademark 1. And for those who like to go down a rabbit hole, there's a nice series on color diffusion and color correction on the YouTube. Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. So if anyone has recommended videos or sites, please post them. But you can search. All right. Paul Cutler's always preferred Genesis over the NES. Aladdin on Genesis, top tier. Love Aladdin. There's also a Mickey game, I forget what it's called, Mickey's Big Adventure or something, that starts out in a Steamboat Willie world, but I won't use that because then I'll definitely go to jail. All right. I think that is going to do it. Before I forget, yeah, if you want to go buy some of those things, go get some e-ink stuff. Steamboat, that is your coupon code that will save you 10% off in the shop today, so just go to adafruit.com. and look for some stuff you want, throw it in there, save 10%. Some Nice said, I'd love to see the FFmpeg scripts you use. Doesn't look like Atkinson dithering is available. Ah, okay. If you dither the red only, it would be Pink Floyd Steinberg. Thank you, Andy. All right. Yeah, I will let you know, and I'll put whatever scripts I end up with in there, and if I have to go to something other than or alongside of the FFmpeg to do that, I will. All right, thank you everyone so much for Adafruit Industries. I'm John Park. This has been John Park's Workshop, and I will see you next time. Don't forget, I believe we have a deep dive with Foamy Guy tomorrow, another live stream with Foamy Guy on Saturday, I believe. Desk of Lady on Sunday. I'll be back with a product pick of the week on Tuesday, 3D Hangouts Wednesday morning, Show and Tell Wednesday evening, and Ask an Engineer. I think that was all. All right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.